Welcome to Sleep with Myth. Close your eyes and let the world fade away. Tonight we drift beyond time, where gods dream and stories remember their light. The world was young. The seas still glimmered with Ymir's blood. The mountains still whispered his name, and the sky, made from his skull, stretched endless and new. In this silent dawn, three figures walked upon the fresh earth. Odin, Vili, and Vili, the first gods. They had shaped the world from the body of the giant. Yet as they wandered through their creation, they felt it lacked something. A stillness that was not peace, but emptiness. The rivers flowed, the trees swayed, the wind carried cold and warmth alike, but there was no voice, no memory, no witness. Vili was the first to speak. Brother, we have built a world of stone and shadow, but it has no breath. Vili knelt by the river, watching the water run clear as glass. It moves, he said, but it does not live. And Odin, the eldest, looked to the sky. Then perhaps the world waits for us to breathe first. They followed the river to the edge of a great shore where two shapes lay upon the sand. Driftwood, worn smooth by sea and time. One was pale as frost, the other dark as dusk. They were motionless, hollow, almost like the echo of something that had once existed. Vili placed his hand upon the pale wood. What are they? Shells, Vili said softly, like the world before we shaped it. Odin knelt beside them. He could feel the pulse of the sea in their fibers, the whisper of the wind in their grain. Something ancient stirred within the stillness, a question waiting to be answered. They are almost ready, Odin murmured, but not yet whole. He leaned close, his breath slow and deep. Then he exhaled, not air, but life. A warmth left his chest and entered the wood. The sea wind turned gentle. The sky brightened. The shapes stirred. They move, Vili whispered. They feel, said Vili, laying his hand upon the second. He closed his eyes and gave them thought. The spark of awareness, the ability to see, to wonder, to know. Odin smiled faintly. Then let them speak. Vili leaned close and gave them voice. A tone between sound and silence. A language without words. The first breath left their lips like the wind through leaves. Their eyes opened, reflecting sky and sea alike. And so, from the sand and the god's breath, the first humans were born, Ask and Embla. They sat up upon the shore, dazed, their hands touching the ground, feeling its warmth. They did not know their names, nor the world, nor the sky above. But they knew this. They were alive. The gods watched in silence, and for a moment, all creation seemed to pause, listening to the sound of its own heartbeat through them. Vili turned to Odin. So this is what it means to breathe. Odin nodded slowly. It is what it means to remember. And the world, once silent, learned how to whisper. Sleep, listener. In the next part, the gods will watch what they have made, and the first thoughts will awaken beneath their gaze. Dawn moved like a gentle hand across the shore. Ask and Embla sat where the tide drew silver lines upon the sand. They listened to the world breathing, the hush of waves, the soft creak of driftwood, the wind threading grasses with quiet song. Life was no longer only warmth. It was listening. Vili watched them with steady eyes. Awareness, he murmured, is a door, and thought, said V, is the step beyond it. Odin said nothing. He stood behind them like a mountain of patience, letting the new-made hearts find their own rhythm. Ask lifted a shell to his ear. Inside, he heard the sea remember. Embla pressed her palm to the earth and felt a slow pulse move through the soil, deep and calm, as if the ground itself dreamed. Between them a thread formed, not of sound, but of meaning. What is this? Embla breathed. Vili knelt beside them. A path inside you, he answered. Where feeling chooses shape. Ask frowned gently. Shape? Thought, said V, touching the space just above Ask's brow. The shape of feeling. The wind turned warmer. The sea brightened. Within Ask and Embla something stirred, gathering like rain before it falls. It was not memory and not yet language, but it leaned toward both, an inward glow seeking a way out. Odin lowered his hand to the air between their brows. When you see, carry what you see. When you feel, carry what you feel. When you carry, let it meet the breath I gave you, and rise. They inhaled. The world came with it, salt and sun, stone and sky. They exhaled, and with the breath, a thread of sound unfurled. Sky, said Ask, the word landing softly, like a bird on water. Sea, said Embla, and the waves nodded as if they had waited to hear their own name. The gods were still. A holiness entered the light. Name is remembering out loud, V whispered. Keep going. Stone, said Ask, and his hand grew sure. Wind, said Embla, and her eyes shone. Hand, said Ask, looking at his own. Heart, said Embla, touching hers. With each word, the world gathered closer, as if invited to sit beside the fire of their breath. The shore felt less empty, the sky less far. In naming, they discovered nearness. Vili's voice moved like a quiet river. When thought meets breath, meaning is born. Guard it. Do not let it harden. Embla turned to him. Harden. Let your words be water, Odin said gently. They should carry, not cut. Ask looked out across the sea. What are we for? The three gods exchanged a silence that felt like the turning of a page. To witness, said V. To choose, said Vili. To remember, said Odin. Far inland, the young forests listened. The trees held their breath. A stag raised its head. Over the mountains, clouds gathered, as if pulled by the thread of these first voices. The world leaned toward them, learning its own reflection. Embla stood. If we name, will we also make? You will shape, Odin answered, as we shaped. But remember the sleep beneath all things. Do not wake the world faster than it can breathe. Ask closed his eyes. Within the dark, a soft brightness formed. Not a picture, but a knowing. He saw paths through trees and homes that warmed night, hands lifting water, songs that held winter gentle. When he opened his eyes, he found he could carry the vision without holding it tight. "I will keep it light," he said. "And I," Embla whispered, "will keep it kind." The first thought had spoken, and the world replied by opening. Birds tested small notes in the air. The river changed its music where the sand curved. Even the wind seemed to learn their names and return them softly, as echo without end. Ask and Embla pressed their foreheads together and laughed, not loudly, but with the serenity of dawn that knows there is time. Behind them, Odin's gaze drifted far beyond the horizon. He saw the future as a long breath, gathering, releasing, gathering again. Within it, wonders and dangers called. Language would build and break, lift and bind. Choice would widen. Memory would deepen. He felt the weight and blessed it. "Tonight," said V, "we will teach you to listen in the dark." "And tomorrow," Vili added, "we will walk the forests and learn the gentle ways of strength." Odin placed his hand above their crowns, not touching, only sheltering. "For now let the day finish quietly. Let words settle into roots." The sun leaned toward evening. Water stitched gold into the edges of waves. Ask and Embla learned to sit without speaking, and to feel how silence also says. Their first names rested like seeds. The shore glowed with promise. Sleep, listener. In the next part, night will arrive, and with it the first dream. In that dream, the runes will whisper their shapes, and meaning will learn how to endure. When the sun sank beyond the sea for the first time, silence followed. But it was not the silence of absence. It was the quiet of something sacred, breathing beneath the dark. Ask and Embla watched the light fade from the water. The world, which had seemed so wide in daylight, now folded close around them. They felt both small and infinite, as if the sky itself had leaned down to listen. V spoke softly. "Do not fear the dark. It is the other half of seeing." Odin raised his hand, and from the edge of his palm, faint stars appeared. Each one was small, fragile, but they multiplied, scattering across the sky like thoughts freed from speech. "These," said Odin, "are the runes before they were written." Embla tilted her head. "Runes?" Vili knelt beside her. "They are meanings that travel in silence, the shapes of truth that do not need voice." Ask's eyes followed the constellations. "Then the sky is a page." V smiled. "And your dreams are the ink." Night deepened. The air grew still. Somewhere in the forest, a breeze began to hum low, almost like a chant. The sound came not from the wind, but through it. The trees swayed in rhythm, and their shadows carved faint symbols upon the ground. They flickered, then vanished, as if drawn by invisible hands. Odin closed his eyes and felt the rhythm move through him. The sound was older than time, the voice of the void before creation, carried no words, only memory. He whispered, "I hear it." Vili and Vi turned. "Hear what?" "The breath beneath thought," Odin said. "The rune that teaches all others." He stepped away from them, his gaze lost in the night sky. Above, the stars pulsed faintly, aligning, not randomly, but with purpose. Each glimmer traced a curve, a mark, a whisper of meaning. Slowly, they began to form patterns, the first runes, curved and sharp, flowing and firm. The shapes that would one day hold names and prayers. "What do they say?" Embla asked, her voice trembling between awe and wonder. Odin did not answer. He only breathed deeper, letting the silence between the stars fill him. The meaning came not as sound, but as understanding, a knowing that settled gently upon his spirit. "They speak of cycles," he said at last, "of life folded into death, of sleep that gives birth to waking. They say that nothing ends, only changes its name." Vi placed his hand upon the earth. "And this is how the world remembers itself." Vili nodded. "We should teach them to see the same." Odin turned to Ask and Embla. "When you dream, do not chase the vision. Let it come to you. What it gives will be yours to guard." Ask and Embla lay down beside the sea. The sand was cool, the stars gentle above. As they closed their eyes, the night wove its threads around them. Images drifted through their minds. Rivers turning into words, stones breathing light, and trees that sang in silence. Odin sat beside them, watching. The stars above shimmered in patterns that only he could read. The runes moved like flowing rivers of light, meaning without end. He felt them sink into his bones, carving paths of wisdom that would one day guide the fate of gods and men alike. Vi whispered, "You look changed, brother." Odin smiled faintly. "I have only remembered what I already knew." When morning returned, the first dawn touched the world with gold. Ask and Embla awoke, their eyes wide with wonder. They could not recall the dream, but within their hearts lingered shapes and sounds they could not describe. The gods saw it in their gaze, the birth of intuition, the quiet memory of something divine. Vili spoke softly. "They have seen the runes." Odin nodded. "And through them, the world will one day learn to write its own fate." As the sun rose higher, the stars faded, but their marks remained, invisible yet eternal, etched into the breath of all living things. Sleep, listener. In the next part, the gods will walk the forests of the new world, and the breath of life will begin to shape the soul. The dawn was young and quiet, a slow golden breath upon the edges of the sea. Ask and Embla walked along the shore, where the tide left mirrored pools of light. The world around them shimmered, new and trembling, as though it had only just learned to exist. They did not yet know words like soul or memory, but they felt both moving within them, a silent music that matched the rhythm of their hearts. From afar the gods watched. "They have seen the runes," said Vili. They remember them even while waking. Vi nodded. And yet they do not know what they carry. Odin stood still, eyes on the horizon. Then we must show them how to see not only the world, but themselves. The three gods descended to the shore. Ask and Embla looked up, their eyes bright with recognition, though they could not explain why they knew these faces so deeply. It was as though the gods were the shapes of memories they had not yet lived. Odin raised his hand, and the air between them stilled. "Tell me," he said softly, "when you close your eyes, what do you see?" Embla hesitated. Light but softer, like warmth remembering itself. "And you?" Odin asked Ask. "I see nothing," Ask said. Then, after a pause, "But the nothing feels awake." Odin smiled faintly. "That is the soul, the seeing that needs no eyes." He placed his palm over their hearts. Beneath his touch, their chests glowed faintly, not with fire, but with calm luminescence, as though starlight had found a home within. The light did not stay still. It moved, like water, reflecting their thoughts and feelings in quiet ripples. "This is your center," said Odin. "The bridge between what you are and what you dream." Vili stepped closer. "It will guide you, but it will also mirror you," Vi added. "And sometimes what it shows will frighten you. Look anyway." Ask's hand trembled slightly as he gazed at the glow within his chest. "Is it alive?" Odin's eyes softened. "It is life itself." The sea whispered against the stones. A gull called above, circling slowly, its wings bright against the rising sun. Every sound seemed to move through the same current, flowing inward, into the quiet light now awake within the first humans. Embla placed her hand upon Ask's. "It feels endless." "It is," said Odin. "But even the endless must rest. When your body sleeps, your soul will wander. It will dream as we once did, as Ymir once did. And through it, creation will continue." Ask frowned slightly. "Will we see you there?" Odin looked to his brothers. Vili smiled gently. "When you need us." Vi said, "When you listen." For a long moment, none spoke. The only sound was the soft hush of waves folding over themselves. The gods turned their gaze toward the east, where the first forests shimmered beneath the sun. From the distance came the cry of new creatures, the laughter of running water, the pulse of a world still inventing itself. Odin breathed deeply. "Their souls are mirrors. Through them the world will know itself." Vili looked toward the horizon. "And what will they see when they truly understand?" Odin's voice was quiet, almost reverent. "That there is no separation, only breathtaking new shapes." The gods turned to leave, but as they walked away, Embla called softly, "Will we ever see beyond what we are?" Vi turned back, smiling. "Only when you forget to ask." The gods disappeared into the morning mist, their steps leaving no mark upon the sand. Ask and Embla stood alone, the light within their chests pulsing like a slow drumbeat. They felt it spread through their limbs, their thoughts, their dreams. The sea before them shimmered, not just as water, but as reflection. They began to see the world not as it appeared, but as it remembered itself. In every ripple, in every glimmer, they felt the same light that lived within them. And for the first time they understood what it meant to belong. Sleep, listener. In the next part, the gods will walk the forests, and the soul will meet its reflection in the wild. The forests waited vast, green, and quiet. Ask and Embla stepped from the shore into the cool breath of trees. The light above shifted softly, threading through leaves like whispers through silk. Each sound was slow and deep, the kind of silence that listens. They did not know it yet, but this was the first pilgrimage. The journey inward, through the living skin of the world. The gods followed unseen. Odin's gaze was steady, his brothers walking beside him in thoughtful silence. "They are beginning to hear," Odin said. Vili nodded. "The forest is the mirror." Vi smiled faintly. "Then soon, they will see themselves everywhere." Ask and Embla moved through the tall grass, their footsteps barely disturbing the soil. Around them, the air shimmered with unseen life. Insects humming like strings, rivers murmuring beneath moss and stone. Everything moved in rhythm, as if following a breath larger than any one being. Embla knelt beside a small stream, its surface calm as glass. She leaned close and saw her reflection ripple, then change. The water shimmered, and for an instant, her own face became the forest's. Her eyes turned to leaves, her hair to branches. She gasped. Ask crouched beside her. "What did you see?" "Myself," she whispered, "but not a part." Ask touched the water and watched his reflection dissolve into light. In that flicker, he too saw something more. The way the stream's flow echoed the rhythm of his breath, the way his pulse matched the wind between trees. He smiled. "We are part of it." From above, the gods watched. "They are remembering," said Vi softly. Odin nodded. "They begin to see what even we forget, that creation does not belong to us. We only woke what already dreamed." As Ask and Embla walked deeper into the forest, the world seemed to breathe with them. The roots beneath their feet pulsed faintly with warmth. The air shimmered with golden dust, the quiet life of unseen things. When they stopped to rest, the trees leaned toward them, their branches whispering a language older than sound. Embla closed her eyes and listened. The whispers became shapes, circles of light, spirals, flowing lines. She could feel them move through her thoughts like soft fire. "It speaks," she said. "Then listen." Odin's voice carried faintly through the wind. "Every silence is a sentence. Every shadow, a word." Ask reached toward the nearest trunk and pressed his palm against its bark. The tree's surface was cool and rough, but beneath, he felt a pulse, steady and calm. The rhythm was his own heartbeat, returning to him from the roots of the earth. "We are not guests here," he murmured. "We are echoes." Vili's voice, gentle as dusk, drifted through the leaves. And echoes remember what sound forgets. Night came quietly. The sky deepened into violet. Fireflies drifted between the trees like slow, breathing stars. Ask and Embla built a small fire and sat beside it. The flames did not reach upward in hunger, but swayed gently, as if listening. The world was not divided anymore. Earth and air, breath and flame, thought and silence, all moving within the same circle. Embla looked into the firelight. If everything breathes, she said softly, then we are never alone. Odin's whisper came with the wind. That is the truth the gods once feared. The flames flickered, and for a moment, Ask and Embla saw faces within them. Not gods, not spirits, but their own reflections multiplied through time. They saw generations unborn, eyes filled with wonder and memory. The fire spoke without words. You are what the world remembers of itself. The forest sighed. The stars brightened. And in that stillness, Ask and Embla fell asleep, their dreams carrying the rhythm of the world's breath. High above, Odin watched. They have found what cannot be taught, he said. Vili nodded. Then the soul has learned to see. Vi looked toward the fire's glow. And soon, he whispered, it will learn to choose. Sleep, listener. In the final part, the gods will face what they have awakened, and learn that even breath has an ending that is also a beginning. The dawn came softly, the kind that felt more like memory than morning. Mist rose from the forest floor, curling through the air like the remnants of a dream. Ask and Embla woke to find the fire still glowing faintly, its embers pulsing in time with their breathing. The world was quiet, but not empty. Every sound, the rustle of leaves, the ripple of water, the slow call of a distant bird, seemed part of one great rhythm. The gods stood among the trees, their faces half in light, half in shadow. They have learned to live, said Vi softly. And to listen, added Vili. Their silence is full. Odin watched the humans with a gaze that seemed to stretch through time itself. Now they must learn to give back what was given. He stepped forward and knelt beside them. Ask looked up, eyes bright with sleep and wonder. Father of breath, he said. For now he knew the name that had always been waiting in his heart. Why have you come? Odin smiled faintly. To remind you that what you carry is not yours to keep. Embla touched her chest. Our light, your breath, Odin said. All that you are is borrowed from what is eternal. Every breath you take is the world remembering itself, and every breath you give is your gift to it in return. Vili gestured toward the sky. Look! Above them, clouds drifted slow and golden. The wind shifted, gathering warmth from the rising sun. The forest leaves shivered, and for a moment, the entire world seemed to inhale. Then, as the wind passed, it exhaled again. A vast, invisible tide moving through all things. Ask and Embla felt it within their lungs, their hearts, their bones. The air entered and left them, but it was not theirs. It belonged to everything, to gods, to rivers, to the endless sky. Odin's voice was soft. Life is the space between the breaths. Embla closed her eyes. Then death is only another breath. Odin nodded. One that returns home. V placed his hand upon the earth. When they exhale for the last time, it will not be loss. It will be the world breathing through them again. The wind rose gently, lifting the mist into spirals of light. The forest grew bright, the air trembling with quiet music, the song of leaves and sky in flame. Odin looked upon it and knew. This was the completion of the first circle. The gods had given breath to the world, and now the world was learning to breathe them back. Vili turned to Odin. And what of us? Odin smiled. We are the pause between breaths. We wait so that the next world may rise. The gods stepped back. The humans stood, eyes raised toward the heavens, and took a single, deep breath. In that moment they felt everything, the warmth of the gods, the pulse of the earth, the cool vastness of the sea. And when they exhaled, the air shimmered, carrying with it their laughter, their gratitude, their promise. The sound rose through the trees, through the clouds, through the very bones of the sky, and far above, the stars stirred. For a brief heartbeat, they glowed as one, as though the universe itself were breathing in rhythm with them. Odin watched, his voice barely more than wind. It is done. The breath continues. The gods turned and began to fade, their forms dissolving into light, into air, into the same current that flows through all things. Only their echo remained, not as sound, but as stillness. A presence in every inhale, a memory in every sigh. Ask and Embla stood hand in hand beneath the open sky. The forest swayed gently around them, and the sea whispered beyond. They did not speak. They only breathed in, out, their rhythm now indistinguishable from the world's. And far above, Odin's whisper lingered one last time. Breathe, and you will remember. The morning light spread over the earth like a blessing. The world, once silent, sang again, not with words, but with the endless pulse of life, returning always to its source. Thank you for listening to Sleep with Myth.